What is up, everyone? I'm Jeff London. This is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast. So I was laying on the beach of this little lake yesterday for hours and hours, just waiting for a bear to come out. There's kind of a grassy spot on the north part of the lake, and the southern part has a bunch of skunk cabbage patches that, both of which were a little underdeveloped for what I expected this time of year. I thought there'd be a little bit more grass coming up because it was warm and sunny, but pretty dry. And then it rained a whole lot, but it was kind of cold. And now it's sunny, but overnight's been kind of chilly. So the last 2 weeks where we've gotten a lot of rain, but nothing has really been shooting up because it's been pretty cold at night. So I was hoping there'd be more grass there and I'd maybe find a bear, but did not. So I was thinking as I was laying on this lake just how great it felt to be isolated. And I wasn't super isolated, obviously. I drove to that spot and then parked my truck, and it was a short little hike down. But I didn't see anybody else. After work yesterday, or Friday, I went out. I grabbed my stuff and then went camping. And so from Friday until last night, Saturday, I did not see anybody. And just how comforting that is. Not... You feel alone, you feel isolated, and you can't wait to get back. It felt really good to just lay on that beach in glass and hear nothing. You'd hear Alaska Airlines would land every once in a while, and you'd hear a couple helicopters. I guess there was a cruise ship in town yesterday here in Ketchikan, so there were probably some of the float planes that I heard or helicopter tours were just that, tours. But other than that, I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't see anybody. I didn't have to worry about being out there and wanting to scout this spot for bear and seeing someone else in my camping spot or the spot I wanted to camp. I didn't have to, as I was looking at glassing a beach Friday night in the evening when the bear should pop, I didn't have to worry about seeing someone in an orange vest on the other side who had moved in. It is amazing just how much land there is here and how great it is. And that's kind of one of the reasons why you don't have a whole lot of people in Alaska that kind of champion the public land owner thing, because it's not such a rarity up here that people have to really advocate for it. And I love the influence of the idea that we should celebrate that we can access so much land all across America. If I go down to public land in Wyoming, and technically, it's open for me. It's open for the public. I'm able to go there and I'm able to camp, and it's great. I love to be able to do that. That the government provides these areas for me, and so it is my land, in air quotes. That's great. I love it. But I also like to not have to share. Call me greedy, call me selfish, whatever. That's one of the great things about Alaska is that you don't have to be around a ton of people. I have Onyx maps because I don't have to worry. It's not to find where people live and what's public and what's private. It's so I can use those maps when I'm off the grid. I'm not looking at, Leopold Obilium. I have to ask him for permission to access his land to hunt it. I don't have to worry about that. I love it. I absolutely love living in an area where that's so accessible, so close, and so you don't have that added stress of figuring out where you're going to go. And then when you come back to a small town. You're not coming back to a major metropolitan area. You're not coming back to chaos. I've been pretty big on the idea of escaping lately, and I found this article. It's from the Best of Field and Stream magazine. It's by A.J. McLean, an article he wrote in October of 1967. He wrote, "Psychologists tell us that one reason why people enjoy fishing is because it is an escape. This is meaningless. True, a man who works in the city wants to escape to the country, but the clinical implication is that no matter where a man lives, he seeks to avoid reality. This is as obtuse as the philosophical doctrine which holds that no reality exists outside the mind." End quote. I like that a lot because the part about true, a man who works in city wants to escape to the country, but the clinical implication is that no matter where a man lives, he seeks to avoid reality. The escape quotes are such great ones for social media. Live a life that you don't need an escape from. And it's really easy to quote. You're going to get a lot of likes on social media if you type, but does that represent your life? What about that quote represents your life? Are you projecting attributes of a life that you wish you had? And I'm not being judgmental. When I swish these quotes around in my head, I think I like that quote a lot. Is there anything about my existence that reflects that? And if not, what can I do in order to make that happen? I didn't move back to Alaska because of one of those quotes, and I felt guilty that I wasn't living it. But now that I'm here, what are some things I can do? And I know that I'm going to fall short, and there's no way that you can just crush Alaska. Some people dominate, and I'm happy, and I always want to push myself, but I'm far from being that hardcore Alaskan like shows are made of. People who don't know any better think that I'm hardcore, but it's I guess when you write, you talk about it, and you do stuff, and you have some sort of online presence, it kind of projects that. And so I do want to make sure that what I am projecting out there is as legit as possible. It does represent things that I really do and really care about. But I have to be careful that I don't fall in love with some sort of avatar of myself, or the attention I get from that. So McLean continued to write, quote, "So if escapism is a reason for angling, then the escape is to reality. The sense of freedom that we enjoy in the outdoors is, after all, a normal reaction to a more rational environment."
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
I bought this book a long time ago, and I never really wrote it or read it because the stuff that I was reading, none of the stuff is about Alaska. All the stuff is about back east, a whole bunch of stuff about back east, and I didn't really relate to it. Fishing on the East Coast and these little creeks, and it just didn't. And birds, I didn't really do a whole lot of bird and rabbit and squirrel hunting. But then you read it for the craft of writing, and I really appreciate how people are describing. It's not about just the adventure. There's a story in there that you can relate to, and that was the thing that I'd kind of missed, but I appreciate a lot more now. So reading these old-timers talk about it, old-timers now, not at the time, but these classic writers who are revealing something about, intentionally, something about what it is to be an outdoorsman and what it is about life, and trying to articulate that. And I think that definitely does exist now, but I think it exists in a different context. And we also have such a market for the people who epitomize the best of the outdoorsman, the best hunter, and we advocate for that a little bit, and we've commercialized and monetized that. So I think the outdoor as a whole culture is a little different. Obviously didn't live in the 60s, 70s, and or before then, but it just seems the types of people who are writing about the outdoors right now, you're not getting a whole lot of this. You're getting some absolutely great writing for sure. But it is a bit of a time capsule, and I'm always someone who's kind of romanticizes the olden days. It's doesn't matter what you're reading, just the craft of writing, and to see what people and have that perspective and know that the perspective that they wrote so long ago is exactly how you feel, and just knowing and appreciating also that you're going to have an original thought to yourself, but someone else has probably written it better. And as a writer, I'm fine with that. There's a lot of people who have written things that I will never, in my best, be able to really touch, and that's fine with that. You find your lane, and you stay in it there. But that doesn't mean you stop trying. I was talking with my class about insecurities, and talked about how when you're in high school, things are really weird. Every year, just insecure about a whole bunch of different things. Then when you become an adult, it's a different level of insecurity. And when you put yourself out there, and I use the example, I said, when I sent an article into a magazine, and they don't like it, or they say they're not going to use it, or they can't use it, or they just don't even email you back. It's a different sort of hit, because if you're writing something that you did and it's part of your life, if you're not careful, you could equate that rejection is a rejection of your life and not just you writing your life. But if you're something that you did that you loved and were excited about to share, if that's not good enough to publish, if that's not interesting enough to publish, you can kind of start thinking that, wow, is my life really not that interesting? But it's about connecting to other people. And that's what those going back and reading those articles that people wrote dozens of years ago, or not dozens of years ago, decades ago is the right D word I was looking for there. Connecting with people, right? And finding people who have the same values as you, or ask the same questions as you. And it can be inspiring, and it can keep you not only outdoors, but also going to give you some ammunition and some different words that in a time when we're increasingly having to express and defend our life choices, which is interesting being in a free country, but having to defend it because people aren't understanding it, and it's under attack. Like, we live in a time that's so great, we're able to go out of our way to attack the lifestyles of others, when most people probably just want to be left alone. But we have people who are pointing out different things that people do that they shouldn't do anymore. And I don't think hunters and anglers are victims, but I definitely think that if it's something that's really important to us, be able to articulate what it means is important, and being able to share that bond with you mentor through programs, or just opportunities to take people fishing and hunting is important. And I was a late comer to hunting. I didn't start hunting until I was in my 30s, but I love it. And again, it's changed. At first, it was about I haven't even been hunting that long, but just reading and listening to the way people talk about hunting, it gives you a different impression. So if at first it's about getting the deer, the more that you talk to people about the entire experience and waking up to the experience and knowing about and appreciating the entire experience, the more that can impact you, and more it can kind of speed you past some of those times when you're just young and you're figuring stuff out. And I'm really glad that I've said this almost probably every podcast, but listening to podcasts and reading books about people, and just the appreciation that I'm the latest in a long line of people who have used the outdoors, and how important it is that I do the best I can to not make dumb decisions. and mistakes, and appreciate it and present that in a way that's going to be beneficial to the hunting and fishing community. And I like that responsibility, and I like caring about it. I like not being unapologetic about it and not being brazen in your face. You have to accept me. It's free country type. Um, yeah, I think it's important. And while we all have flaws and do stupid things, being conscious of and enjoying the experiences and being careful, that's a good thing to do. So with the bear hunt, that's what's on top now, and it'll be shuffled in the list a little bit once I head down south for some trout fishing. Can't wait to go do that. It's going to be a great time. But crowds, man, it's going to be crowds. It's going to be a lot of people. But it's hard to look at someone who's coming up to Alaska for the first time and they're enjoying it. I get to live it. They're enjoying it, and it's really hard to not have a little bit of something. I don't know. It's just your local person wants to keep things local and wants to have things to themselves because they live here, right? I sacrifice the winters here. I don't just come here when it's nice and appreciate it. So is there any sort of benefit that I get from living here year round during the winter? Should I have an inside track because I endure the winters here to enjoy the summers on a different level? I guess maybe. But again, it is public land, so people have every right to come up here and spend money. Just like I'm going to go down to Wyoming and Montana, and I have to be a good guest. I got to know that I'm encroaching on someone else's backyard. I'm in someone else's honey hole. I'm in someone else's spot that they might not go to during certain months just because there's so many people, and I'm contributing to them not wanting to go to their spot because it's going to be too crowded. So I guess it's the edges of the season and the off season where you really have to appreciate where you live and why you love it, because you can love it on the off season or in the off season, knowing full well that when it gets crowded and people show up, it's going to be chaotic and it's going to be kind of a shell of itself. But the weather is going to be the good, or whatever it is that attracts people to go there is going to be at the best. And so, if you've done some homework and you can get to a spot where there's not going to be a lot of people, and that's great. But I try to get excited for people who are up here for the first time, and it's easier if they appreciate it and they are excited and they understand that they're a guest. I was born in Colorado, so if I'm down there and I'm fishing this summer and I feel entitled because I was born in Colorado and my grandparents lived, it doesn't like allow me to have any sort of local. I'm not more local. I don't live there. Just because I've been to this state a bunch of times that doesn't really mean a whole lot. I still should be courteous of people who live there year round, and I should still understand. I should, go to the local fly shop and I should support that. It's just, again, personally, I think you don't have to. You can do whatever you want, but living in Ketchikan has definitely made me think about those sort of things a lot more. As much as I don't like the crowdedness of the tourists, they have every right to come up here, and good on them. Good on them to come up here and see and check it out, and really good on the people who come up here, do the fishing charter thing, and just love it and appreciate it, and are kind people. They're not coming up here to fish just so they can show pictures to the people that they work with of big king salmon or big halibut, and then it ends up getting freezer burn in their freezer. It's a great place. It's a great place to visit. It's a great place to live. And weekends like this weekend, when you're just on a beach and you're just waiting for bears to come out, and if they don't come out, it's hard to call that a loss. In fact, you'd have to be a real a-hole to call that a loss or an unsuccessful weekend. So maybe I've just become comfortable with non-successful endeavors. And it's not a reflection of my abilities. There are just other circumstances at play. I think we get the impression maybe that you're a good outdoorsman if you are successful every time. And if there's something that happened that does not make you look successful, that you hide it from people and pretend that it didn't happen. That's not true. Like, everybody knows that the sportsman and outdoorsman misses shots, doesn't take shots, screws the wind up, doesn't bring the tent poles, doesn't bring the hammock straps. If we screw up, we do that stuff. That's the real life of it. When I was reading, Bill Heavey was one of my favorite guys. Still is. He's not dead. But he's written a bunch of books, and he used to write the back page column for Field and Stream. He made fun of himself a lot. He was competent enough to know what was going on, but it just seemed like there was always something. And he chose to write about that. He and Patrick McManus, they wrote about the humorous things that they did. And it wasn't that they were inept. It was that they were resilient. And I loved reading that because it just seemed so much more like most people rather than the expert who never makes a mistake and takes the long shots and you can do all that stuff, which over years and years and decades of practice, you might get to that point. But that element of humility was always great. And I really enjoyed reading that stuff by McManus and especially by Bill Heavey. So there you go. We'll call that episode 89. Make sure you check out the mediocrealaskan.com. Subscribe, like this on iTunes. You can also check it out on SoundCloud. Caffeine and Kilos has more stuff that I've been writing. Check on the informational articles. I wrote a thing about hats and the history of hats. There's some weird hats out there with some links, so it's kind of an interactive thing. So you can click on links and show little videos of people catching home runs with hats and whatnot. But just so check out caffeineandkilos.com for that. And we will talk to you next time.